Hey everyone, Synthetic Future here, back from the grave, and today we're taking a look at Unfiltered Audio BattleFX. Now we're going to keep this rather short. BattleFX is a free plugin just released by Unfiltered Audio. It's up for download right now, so you can just go there, grab it, and get on with it. But if you want a little bit more information, or if you want to know if it's worth making an account for and downloading this, well, that's what this video is for. We're just going to go through the module, talk a little bit about it, and see what it can do. But for that, I'm just going to first revert my little thing, and we're going to make the sequence a little bit more sparse so we can talk a little bit about this plugin. Now, before we go into the nitty-gritty of everything, I just want to touch on something that really confused me the first time I used this plugin. I want to make sure that everyone is aware of this, and that's kind of the routing that BattleFX has. Now, we have two effect units. We have a delay and a reverb, and then there is a master bus to the right side. If you turn your mix all the way up and you have just the delay going in solo mode, no surprise, you just get a delay. If you turn on the reverb in solo mode, you just get a reverb. So far, everything makes perfect sense. Now you have this handy dandy little send here that will send the delay signal into the reverb. So if we turn the input of the reverb off and we push up the send and we turn off the off here, we still get the delay going into the reverb going out of the module. That also makes perfect sense, and we can solo both. But there's one scenario that I think that's important to talk about, and that's if you unmute everything. You have the input off, you have the output off here as well. And we're going to make the delay a bit longer. You may notice that there's still a dry signal being fed in, because you can still hear the 1, even though there shouldn't be a 1 because it's 100% wet. And there's a delay set to half a bar. So there's actually a dry signal being fed into the bus even when the mix is all the way set to 100%. So if you just want to use the effects without any dry signal fed in, you need to make sure you have both these channels soloed. This is by design, but it confused me a little bit first time using it. So I just wanted to point this out before people get frustrated with it. It's no big deal, it's just something you need to know. So what is BattleFX? It is a combination of a delay and a reverb. And we're just going to take a look at the delay first. So I'm just going to solo the delay. Going to make it a little bit faster. As you may notice, it is a digital delay, so when you're moving the delay time around, it's not stretching like an analog delay. There's a feedback parameter, which works just as a feedback, so you can make it endless feedback if you want to. Which is quite fun. And then we have some parameters down here, a glitch parameter. Which adds a bunch of random modulation to the signal. If you really crank this, it becomes quite a stuttery mess. We have ducking to duck the delay signal when a new signal is coming in. For this we need one note more. Useful for making sure things don't get too cluttered in the signal, for sure. We have a filter, which allows low and high pass filtering of the feedback line. Also useful for preventing buildup of low frequencies, which can become quite muddy in the mix. So far pretty standard controls, but now we get into the really interesting stuff. So we have a sample rate control here. Now the cool thing of the sample rate control is it's first of all analog style, so you get that cool little stretching effect going on. But you can actually use this for a kind of doubling effect, which is pretty cool. Now do keep in mind that once you halve the sample rate, you also halve the delay time. So if you want to compensate for that, you need to double the delay time. So I'm going to halve the sample rate here, and we're going to double the delay time to an eighth. The lower the sample rate goes, at some point you will get into the artifacting parts of the spectrum and you will get some bit crusher-like effects. Again, this also doubles the delay time, so the lower you push the sample rate, the longer your delay time becomes. Of course, you can compensate it by speeding up your delay time. And this allows you to create some very glitchy sounding delays, especially combined with the glitching. There's some very cool possibilities there. So let's move on to the last parameter in this block, and that's the choke. And the choke just cancels out the delay feed, and this allows for some very interesting rhythmic creative choices. So if we just let this run for a quick second. Now, the sort of annoying thing with this is if the node is played on the choke and you're running it 100% mix, it will also choke out the entire signal. And this, of course, isn't very great. But there's a little trick around that. If you're running it in a sync mode, you can also just nudge it. So the actual choke action is either before or after the beat. And with this skin apparently you can't really see. And this is a very fun parameter to create some interesting rhythmic effects, but it's also useful to prevent delay buildup when working with longer feedback times or feedback percentages. So if you really push that feedback percentage, but you do want to make sure it doesn't build up too much, you can use one of the sparser choke models with a slower rate to catch out some of that buildup. So for instance, we can put this to 4, crank the that's quite a cool effect. That's the delay side of things. Let's move to the reverb side of things. Again, with a lot of controls here, we have a filter. To cut lows and boost highs, or cut highs and boost lows. It can be very useful to prevent muddying. And we also get a decay time, which goes from very short to very long. With a pre-delay, and this is especially handy with things with a loud transient, to make sure that transient doesn't get overshadowed by your reverb. And we also have a sample rate control here as well to allow for some interesting either lo-fi crackly reverb if you really crank it down, or some halftime reverb and other interesting stuff. Again, this of course influences the decay time, so the higher you crank this, the longer the decay time comes, but you can of course compensate it with the decay control. Can introduce some of the signal from the dry as well. We get a whole host of reverb modes. I really like the ZREF and the bokeh in particular. There's also a tilt filter at the end of the chain. Choking here as well, again, can be both used rhythmically or to kind of mitigate buildup of frequencies. It's an interesting tool to play around with, especially once you start combining these things, because you can, of course, also send the signal from the delay into the reverb with the little send slider here. to top everything off, there's a maximizer control here. If we just mute all the effects. This really helps, I think, to kind of even out the sound level actually once you run the effect. So I like to always run it to some degree. 20%, 24% seems pretty good for that. To top everything off, the mix control here, of course, wet dry, like I said before. It's a little bit quirky, but you get used to it, so it's not that big a deal. We also have a main EQ with a clipping at the bottom of it all. So let's quickly mute these. Another coloration tool, and it's actually pretty powerful because it does have a lot of range to sculpt the sound. So that's the entire overview of Unfiltered Audio BattleFX. Now I really like this. It's nice and concise. It does a few things really well instead of being this giant convoluted complex thing. You can really just use it as a delay, you can really use it as a reverb, you can use it as a delay reverb combination, and you have plenty of tools in here to sculpt your sound and create some pretty interesting and creative effects. So I would say if you have a few megabytes of storage space left on your drive, because this is a pretty small plugin, just go out there and grab it, because it's really fun to play around with, and I'm sure it will find a place on one of your new tracks. That's it for me, and have a great day.